My hands are shaking so violently that I nearly drop my phone. I'm standing in the lobby of the Langham Hotel, surrounded by the soft murmur of wealthy guests and the clink of champagne glasses from the charity gala I'm supposed to be hosting upstairs. But none of that matters because I just saw my dead son walk through the revolving doors. Cassian, my boy who I buried 62 days ago. He's wearing clothes I've never seen before, a simple gray button-down and dark jeans, nothing like the tailored suits he always preferred. But it's him. I would know my son anywhere. The way he moves, that slight lean to the left when he walks, the injury from his motorcycle accident at 23 that never quite healed right. I used to tease him about it, called it his architectural stance, because he'd tilt like a building settling into its foundation. Cassian! The scream tears out of my throat before I can stop it. Several people turn to stare. I don't care. I'm running toward him, my heels clicking frantically against the marble floor, my heart pounding so hard I think it might burst through my ribs. He stops. He turns around. And for one perfect, impossible moment, I think this nightmare is finally over. I think somehow, miraculously, there was a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake, and my son is alive and coming home to me. But then he speaks. "Ma'am? Are you all right?" His voice is concerned but distant, the way you'd speak to a stranger having a medical episode. "I think you have me confused with someone else." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stop 3 feet away from him, close enough to see every detail of his face. It's him. The same strong jawline, the same blue eyes I watched open for the first time 28 years ago. The same slight scar above his left eyebrow from when he fell off his bike at 7. But those eyes are looking at me with polite confusion, maybe even a touch of fear, like I'm a crazy woman who might become dangerous. "Cassian, baby, it's me. It's Mom." My voice breaks on the last word. Tears are streaming down my face now, and I don't care who sees. "Please, I don't understand what's happening, but you're alive and that's all that matters. You're alive." He takes a step back, and that small movement shatters something inside me. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but my name is Ethan Clark. I don't know who Cassian is, but I'm not him." He's speaking slowly now, carefully, the way you talk to someone who might be mentally unstable. A hotel security guard has noticed the commotion and is moving toward us. "I think maybe you need to sit down. Can I call someone for you?" "No, no, no." I'm shaking my head, tears blurring my vision. "Look at me. Really look at me. I'm your mother, Cordelia. You used to call me Corey when you were little because you couldn't pronounce Cordelia. Your favorite food is my coq au vin. You have a birthmark on your neck shaped like a crescent moon. You always wore high collars or scarves to hide it because the kids teased you about it in middle school." Something flickers in his eyes, just for a second. A shadow of confusion, maybe recognition. But then it's gone, replaced by that same polite, distant concern. "I'm sorry," he says again, and I can hear the finality in his tone. "I really need to go. I hope you find whoever you're looking for." He turns away, walking quickly toward the elevators, and I stand there frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. The security guard reaches me, his hand gentle on my elbow. "Mrs. Harlow? Are you all right? Should I call someone?" Of course he knows who I am. Everyone here knows who I am. Cordelia Harlow, owner of 5 prestigious art galleries across Manhattan, chair of this year's Art for Hearts charity gala, wife of renowned cardiovascular surgeon Dr. Atticus Wainwright, the woman who has everything except the one thing that matters, my son. But before the guard can do anything, before the small crowd of concerned onlookers can close in, I catch one more glimpse of him as he waits for the elevator. He's turned slightly to the side, and his collar has shifted. There, on the left side of his neck, clearly visible against his skin, is the birthmark. The crescent moon. The mark I kissed 1,000 times when he was a baby. The mark that made him uniquely, undeniably mine. It's him. God help me. It's him. The elevator doors close, and he disappears. Again. I manage to thank the security guard and assure him I'm fine, just mistaken someone for a lost friend. My voice sounds hollow, even to my own ears. I make some excuse about needing air and somehow find myself outside, standing on the sidewalk in the cool October evening, wrapped in my cream cashmere coat that suddenly feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. I buried my son. I stood at his graveside and threw a handful of earth onto his coffin. I listened to the priest say words about eternal rest and God's mercy while my husband held my hand and my best friend Nadia stood behind me with tissues. I've spent 62 days learning how to breathe again, how to wake up each morning and face a world where Cassian doesn't exist. Except he does exist. He just walked past me and looked at me like I was a stranger. My phone rings. It's Nadia. I stare at it for a long moment before answering. Cordelia? Where are you? The gala starts in 20 minutes and people are asking about you. Nadia. My voice doesn't sound like mine. I need you to come downstairs, right now. I need you to tell me I'm not losing my mind. What happened? Are you okay? I saw him. I saw Cassian. There's a pause. When Nadia speaks again, her voice has shifted into her professional psychiatrist tone, warm but clinical. Sweetheart, we've talked about this. Grief can cause... It was him, Nadia. He was here, in the hotel. He's alive. Cordelia, he had the birthmark, the way he walks, everything. But he said his name is Ethan Clark, and he doesn't know me. He looked at me like I'm a stranger. Another pause. Longer this time. Nadia knows me. We've been best friends for 20 years. She knows I'm not prone to hysteria or delusion. She knows I built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing through careful observation and attention to detail. She knows I don't make mistakes about things like this. Stay there, she says finally. I'm coming down. I lean against the cold stone facade of the hotel, watching people come and go. Happy couples, families, people whose sons are alive and remember who their mothers are. My mind is racing, trying to make sense of the impossible. When Nadia appears, she's still in her gala gown, a deep burgundy that looks stunning against her dark skin. But her face is serious, concerned. She wraps her arms around me without a word, and I collapse into her embrace. Tell me everything, she says quietly. Every detail. So I do. I describe the way he walked, the birthmark, the clothes, the eyes that looked at me with such polite blankness. The flicker of something when I mentioned the birthmark, gone so quickly I might have imagined it. And you're absolutely certain it was him? Nadia asks when I finish. As certain as I am that I'm standing here talking to you. Nadia, I carried that boy for 9 months. I memorized every inch of him. The birthmark alone. I've never seen another one shaped exactly like that. And the way he walks, the limp from his hip injury, it's not something you can fake or coincidence. It was Cassian. Nadia is quiet for a long moment, and I can see her brilliant mind working through possibilities. She's one of the best psychiatrists in New York, specializing in trauma and memory disorders. If anyone can help me make sense of this, it's her. There are conditions, she says slowly, where people can lose their memories. Severe trauma, dissociative amnesia, even certain drugs can cause profound memory loss. But for him to have a completely different identity, a different name, and no recognition of you at all, that's not typical of any naturally occurring condition I know of. What are you saying? I'm saying that if that really was Cassian, and if he genuinely doesn't remember you or his own identity, then something happened to him, something deliberate. The words hang in the air between us, terrible and heavy. I think about the closed casket at the funeral. Atticus had insisted on it. He said the accident had been too severe, that I shouldn't remember Cassian that way. I hadn't questioned it. I'd been drowning in grief, barely able to function. I trusted my husband to handle the details, my husband who identified the body, my husband who insisted on a closed casket, my husband who has been oddly calm about my grief, supportive but distant, like he's going through the motions of consoling a bereaved spouse without actually feeling anything himself. "Oh God," I whisper. "Nadia, what if Atticus—" "Don't," she interrupts gently but firmly. "Don't jump to conclusions. There could be 1,000 explanations. Maybe it wasn't Cassian. Maybe it was someone who just looked incredibly similar. With the exact same birthmark? The exact same way of walking?" She doesn't have an answer for that. We stand there in silence for a moment, and then Nadia makes a decision. I can see it in her eyes, the shift from friend to professional problem solver. "Cancel the gala," she says, "or let them run it without you. We need to figure this out. If there's even a chance that Cassian is alive, we need to know for certain. How? Did you see which way he went? Does he work in the hotel?" "No, he got on the elevator. But Nadia, we could find him. We could follow him, figure out where he works, where he lives. I could—" "Cordelia." She grabs my shoulders, forcing me to meet her eyes. "If that was Cassian, and if someone has done something to make him forget who he is, then approaching him directly again might put him in danger, might put you in danger. We need to be smart about this. Careful." She's right. I know she's right. But every instinct in my body is screaming at me to run back into that hotel, search every floor until I find him, shake him until he remembers. "I'll hire a private investigator," Nadia continues. "Someone discreet. We'll find out who this Ethan Clark is, where he came from, where he works, and then we'll figure out what to do next." I nod numbly. It's a plan. It's something. It's better than standing here on the sidewalk falling apart. "But Cordelia," Nadia says, and her voice is gentle but serious, "you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that it's not him, that it's just a terrible, cruel coincidence, or that even if it is him, he might be lost to us in ways we can't fix." "He's my son," I say, and my voice is stronger than I feel. "If there's even a chance he's alive, I will move heaven and earth to bring him back. I don't care what it takes." Nadia squeezes my hand. "Then that's what we'll do. Together." I look back at the hotel, at the warm lights, and the people moving behind the glass, living their normal lives. Somewhere in there, or somewhere in this city, my son is walking around with a different name and no memory of me. And I'm going to find out why. I don't sleep that night. How could I? Instead, I sit in my home office surrounded by photo albums I swore I wouldn't open again, each page a knife to the heart. Nadia stayed with me until midnight, making calls to investigators she trusts, people who work quietly and don't ask too many questions. Atticus is at the hospital, pulling an overnight shift, or so he says. I flip through the albums slowly, methodically, studying every photograph of Cassian like I'm preparing for an exam. Baby pictures where you can see the crescent moon birthmark clearly on his tiny neck. School photos showing that bright smile that could light up a room. Teenage years when he went through his awkward phase, all elbows and knees and hair he couldn't quite control. And then the young man he became, handsome and confident and so full of promise. My boy, my only child. I came to America 35 years ago with nothing but a suitcase and my father's dream. He'd owned a small gallery in Paris, nothing fancy, just a cramped space in the Marais where he sold paintings by local artists nobody had heard of. He died when I was 21, leaving me the gallery and a mountain of debt I couldn't possibly pay. So I sold everything, bought a one-way ticket to New York, and decided to build something better, something that would make him proud. The first 5 years were brutal. I worked 3 jobs while taking business courses at night. I saved every penny, learned English by reading art magazines cover to cover, and slowly, painfully, built a network in the New York art world. By the time I was 27, I'd saved enough to open a tiny gallery in Brooklyn. Nothing like what I have now, just a converted warehouse space in a neighborhood most people were afraid to visit after dark. But it was mine. That's where I met Atticus. He came to an opening with some colleagues from the hospital, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit and uncomfortable expression. Most people at my shows back then were artists and students, not Park Avenue surgeons. But he bought a painting that night, a moody abstract by an unknown artist I'd taken a chance on. We talked for hours. He was brilliant, charming, ambitious, everything I thought I wanted. We got married a year later. I was 28, he was 33, both of us hungry to build something bigger than ourselves. We were the perfect power couple, or so everyone said. He saved lives in the operating room while I elevated souls through art. Our apartment in the Upper East Side was featured in magazines. We attended the right galas, knew the right people, said all the right things. And then I got pregnant with Cassian. I'll never forget the terror in Atticus's eyes when I told him, not joy, terror. He covered it quickly, smiled, and said all the appropriate things about being thrilled to become a father. But I saw that flash of fear, and something in me knew even then that he didn't really want children. He wanted the image of having children, the respectable family portrait, but not the messy reality of it. The pregnancy was difficult. I had complications from the start, and by my 7th month, the doctors put me on strict bed rest. Atticus was working 70-hour weeks at the hospital, building his reputation as one of the best cardiac surgeons on the East Coast. I spent those months alone in our apartment, watching my body change and feeling more isolated than I'd felt since my first year in America. Cassian came 5 weeks early. The labor lasted 19 hours, and there were moments when the doctors thought we might lose him, or lose me, or both. I remember Atticus standing by my bed afterward, staring down at the tiny baby in my arms, and the look on his face was so strange. Not love, not wonder. Something closer to resentment. "The doctors say you can't have any more children," he said quietly. The trauma was too severe. I looked down at Cassian, at his perfect little face and that distinctive birthmark on his neck, and I knew with absolute certainty that I didn't need any more children. This boy was everything. He was my whole heart walking around outside my body. Atticus threw himself even deeper into work after that. He became chief of cardiac surgery at Presbyterian when Cassian was 3. His reputation grew, his salary grew, his ego grew, but his presence in our home shrank. He missed soccer games and school plays and parent-teacher conferences, always had a good excuse, always an emergency surgery or an important consultation. And I made excuses for him to Cassian and to myself, because that's what you do when you want your marriage to work. I built my gallery empire while raising Cassian mostly on my own. By the time he was 10, I'd expanded to 3 locations. By the time he graduated high school, I had 5 galleries and a reputation as one of the most influential art dealers in New York. My net worth hit $18 million, give or take, depending on the market. I'd achieved everything my father had dreamed of and more. But the marriage was dying. I felt it, even if I didn't want to admit it. Atticus and I were roommates who occasionally had sex and attended events together. We were business partners in the enterprise of appearing successful. We weren't lovers anymore. Maybe we never really had been. When Cassian was 25, Atticus and I separated for 3 months. We didn't tell anyone, not even Cassian, who was away doing a master's program in architecture at Yale. We just quietly lived apart while we figured out if there was anything left worth saving. Atticus moved into a hotel. I stayed in our apartment and tried to remember who I was without him. That's when I reconnected with Olivier. We'd known each other in Paris, a lifetime ago. He'd worked at a wine shop near my father's gallery, and we'd had a brief, intense romance before I left for America. I thought I'd never see him again. But he'd moved to New York too, was working as a sommelier at a high-end restaurant in Tribeca. We ran into each other at an art opening, and suddenly I was 22 again, feeling things I hadn't felt in years. It lasted 6 weeks, beautiful, impossible weeks where I allowed myself to imagine a different life. But in the end, I went back to Atticus. I'd built too much to walk away. We had a life together, a reputation, mutual respect, if not passion, and I convinced myself that was enough. Olivier returned to France shortly after, something about a family emergency. We said goodbye in the rain outside his apartment, and I never told him about the positive pregnancy test I'd taken the week before. I went back to Atticus, and 3 months later, we announced we were expecting a baby. He was overjoyed, or at least performed joy well enough that I almost believed it. We never talked about the separation. We just pretended those 3 months had never happened and moved forward with the pregnancy that we both knew couldn't possibly be his child, given the timing. Except I didn't know that he knew. Not then. Not until years later. Cassian was born right on schedule, or at least right on schedule according to the dates I gave the doctors. He looked like me, thankfully, with my blonde hair and blue eyes. Nothing that screamed French sommelier. Atticus held him in the hospital and said all the right things about being grateful for a second chance at fatherhood. And I let myself believe that maybe this baby would fix us, bring us closer, make us a real family. It didn't, of course. Atticus was even more distant with this second child than he'd been with our first. No, not our first. Because Cassian was my first. My only. The child Atticus and I had together had never existed. I'm sitting here at 3 a.m, staring at these photographs, and I'm realizing with horrible clarity that I've been blind. Willfully, stubbornly blind. For 28 years I convinced myself that Atticus loved Cassian as his own son. That whatever distance existed between them was just Atticus's personality, his dedication to his work, his inability to be emotionally present the way other fathers were. But what if it was something else entirely? What if he knew the truth all along, or discovered it at some point, and the resentment I sometimes glimpsed in his eyes wasn't my imagination? I think about the last few years. Cassian had started having problems after his motorcycle accident 3 years ago. The pain medications the doctors prescribed became a crutch, then an addiction. He went to rehab twice, came out determined to stay clean, but struggling with demons I couldn't fully understand. He'd changed somehow, become more searching, more anxious about his identity and his place in our family. And Atticus had pulled even further away, stopped pretending to be interested in Cassian's life, made excuses not to attend family dinners. I thought it was disappointment over the addiction issues, frustration with having an imperfect son who didn't fit the Wainwright family image. But what if it was something darker? 3 months ago, Cassian had seemed particularly troubled. He'd called me one afternoon, asked if we could meet for coffee without telling his father. I'd agreed, of course, my mother's intuition screaming that something was seriously wrong. But before we could meet, Atticus told me that Cassian had asked him for money, claimed he'd relapsed, and needed help getting into a private facility. Atticus said he'd handled it, was taking care of everything, and I should give Cassian some space to work through his issues. I trusted my husband. God help me. I trusted him. 2 weeks later, I got the call about the accident. Single-car crash on a rural road in Connecticut. Cassian had died instantly, or so they said. Atticus went to identify the body. He came home pale and shaken, told me that I shouldn't see him like that I should remember him as he was. The funeral home recommended a closed casket given the severity of the injuries. I never questioned any of it. I was drowning in grief, barely able to breathe, let alone think clearly. Atticus handled all the arrangements with his usual efficiency. Private service, only close family and friends. Cremation after the funeral. Everything neat and tidy and final, except my son just walked past me in a hotel lobby with a different name and no memory of who I am. The sun is starting to rise when my phone buzzes. A text from Nadia. Investigator found something. Coming over at 8 a.m. Don't talk to Atticus until we know more. I look at the photos spread across my desk one more time. Cassian at 5, gap-toothed and laughing. Cassian at 13, all attitude and awkwardness. Cassian at 25, handsome and confident at his Yale graduation. And somewhere out there, right now, My son is waking up in a bed he doesn't belong in, living a life that isn't his, with no idea that his mother is fighting to bring him home. I will find out what happened. I will uncover every lie, follow every thread, tear apart every carefully constructed fiction. Because I am Cordelia Harlow, and I built an empire from nothing. If I can do that, I can damn well save my son. Nadia arrives at exactly 8 in the morning with a man I've never seen before. He's in his mid-40s, unremarkable in every way, which I suppose is the point. The kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him. Perfect for an investigator. Cordelia, this is James Mitchell, Nadia says, as I let them in. He's one of the best private investigators in the city, completely discreet. James shakes my hand with a firm, professional grip. Mrs. Harlow, I understand you're dealing with a very unusual situation. That's putting it mildly. I lead them to the dining room where I've set out coffee that I made but can't imagine drinking. My stomach has been in knots since yesterday. What did you find? James opens a tablet and pulls up several documents. I started with the basics. Ethan Clark, the name the man gave you. There's a person by that name working as an administrative assistant at Meridian Consulting Group in the financial district. Started there exactly 3 months ago. 3 months, right when Cassian supposedly died. Before that, I ask, my voice barely steady. Nothing. No employment history, no rental history, no credit cards, no social media presence before 3 months ago. It's like Ethan Clark didn't exist until July 15th. The room feels like it's tilting. Nadia reaches over and squeezes my hand. What about his apartment? She asks. Studio in Queens, month-to-month lease, paid in cash. Building has minimal security. I wasn't able to get inside, but I did some surveillance yesterday evening and this morning. He keeps a very regular routine, leaves for work at 7:30, returns around 6:30, doesn't seem to have friends or social connections, eats dinner alone, goes to bed early. That doesn't sound like Cassian at all, I whisper. My son was social, vibrant, always had plans with friends or dates or gallery openings to attend. This isolated, routine existence James is describing sounds like a prison. There's more, James continues, and something in his tone makes my blood run cold. I managed to get a photo of him yesterday. He swipes to show me an image taken from across the street. It's definitely the man from the hotel, definitely Cassian. I sent this to a colleague who specializes in facial recognition. Even accounting for possible plastic surgery or aging, the bone structure and biometric markers are a 94% match to the photos you provided of your son. 94%, I repeat numbly. So it is him. Almost certainly, yes. But Mrs. Harlow, if this is your son, then someone has gone to extraordinary lengths to create this new identity. The documentation is professional grade. Social security number, driver's license, employment records, all of it appears legitimate in the system. This isn't amateur work. This is the kind of thing that costs serious money and requires serious connections. I think about Atticus's family wealth, the connections the Wainwrights have cultivated over 5 generations of medical prominence. The people they know in government, in law enforcement, in places I've never had access to. I need more, I say. I need to know everything about this Ethan Clark identity, where he banks, who he talks to, who created these documents. And I need to know if my husband had anything to do with it. James nods slowly. That's going to require deeper investigation, possibly some methods that aren't strictly legal. I don't care about legal, I say flatly. I care about my son. How much will it cost? For the level of investigation you're describing? Probably around $50,000. Maybe more if we need to bring in specialists. Done. I'll wire you half today and half when you have answers. How long will it take? A week, maybe less. But Mrs. Harlow, I need to ask, if your husband is involved in this, if he's done something to your son, you could be in danger. People who can make someone disappear this thoroughly aren't people who hesitate when their secrets are threatened. Then I'll be careful, I say, but I'm not stopping. After James leaves, Nadia stays. She's canceled her morning appointments, something she never does, and I know she's worried about leaving me alone. "What are you going to do about Atticus?" she asks. "Nothing, not yet. I'm going to act like everything is normal until we have proof. If he suspects I know something, he might—" I can't finish the sentence. Might what? Hurt me? Make me disappear too? 3 days ago, I would have said my husband was incapable of such things. Now I don't know what he's capable of. "Stay with me," Nadia says. "At least for a few days. Tell him you need space to grieve, that being in the apartment is too hard." No. If I change my routine, he'll know something is wrong. I need to be normal. I need to be the grieving widow who's slowly learning to function again. The words taste like poison in my mouth. Nadia looks at me for a long moment, and I can see the psychiatrist in her analyzing, assessing. "You're in shock," she says finally. "Your mind is protecting you by letting you function. But Cordelia, when this catches up to you, it's going to hit hard. Promise me you'll call if you need anything, day or night." I promise. She leaves reluctantly, and I'm alone in the apartment that suddenly feels like a museum of lies. Every photograph on the walls, every piece of furniture Atticus and I chose together, every carefully curated detail of our successful life feels fake now. A stage set for a play I didn't know I was performing in. I go to my office and start digging through files, financial records, tax returns, bank statements. I'm looking for anything unusual, any large withdrawals or transfers around the time of Cassian's death. Atticus handles most of our joint finances, but I have access to everything. I've just never had a reason to look closely before. It takes me 3 hours to find it. A transfer of $250,000 from one of Atticus's private accounts to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The date, July 10th. 5 days before Cassian supposedly died. My hands are shaking again as I screenshot the transaction and email it to James. Then I keep searching. There has to be more. There has to be something that connects this money to what happened to Cassian. I'm so focused on the computer screen that I don't hear Atticus come home. His voice behind me makes me jump. "What are you doing?" I spin around, my heart racing. He's standing in the doorway of my office, still in his hospital scrubs, his expression unreadable. "Looking at tax documents," I lie, minimizing the browser window. "Trying to keep busy. The accountant needs some information for next year's filing." He studies me for a moment, and I force myself to meet his eyes without flinching. This is a man I've lived with for 30 years. A man I've shared a bed with, built a life with, trusted completely. And right now, looking at him, I feel nothing but cold calculation, trying to figure out if I'm convincing enough. "You look tired," he says finally. "Have you been sleeping?" "Not really. I keep having dreams about Cassian. That much is true, at least. Dr. Chen says it's normal, that the grief process involves a lot of disrupted sleep." "Nadia," he says, and there's something in his tone. "You've been spending a lot of time with her lately. She's my best friend, and she's helping me cope." "Of course." He moves into the room, and I have to fight the urge to back away from him. "I worry about you, Cordelia. You've seemed so distant these past few days. Is there something you want to talk about?" The question hangs in the air between us, loaded with implications I can't quite read. Does he know I saw Cassian? Is he testing me? "I'm grieving our son," I say, keeping my voice steady. "I'm allowed to be distant." "Our son," he repeats, and something flickers across his face too quickly for me to identify. "Yes, of course." He leaves the room, and I sit frozen at my desk, my heart pounding. That was a message. I'm sure of it. The emphasis on "our son," the way he looked at me. He knows something, or suspects something. I need to be more careful. That night, I lie in bed next to Atticus, both of us pretending to sleep. I can feel the tension radiating from his body, and I wonder if he can feel mine. We're two people playing a game of chess where the stakes are life and death, and neither of us can afford to make the wrong move. The next morning, I do something I've never done before. I follow him. I tell him I have an early meeting at the Chelsea Gallery, leave the apartment 10 minutes before he does, and wait in my car down the street. When he emerges, I follow his town car at a safe distance. He doesn't go to the hospital. Instead, he heads downtown, to the financial district. My pulse quickens as I realize where we're going. The same area where Ethan Clark works, where Cassian works. Atticus's car stops in front of an upscale office building. I park half a block away and watch through binoculars as he gets out and enters the building. The directory outside lists dozens of businesses. I take photos of everything, send them to James with a message. Need to know what my husband is doing in this building. I wait for 2 hours. My phone buzzes with messages from my gallery manager about a shipment that arrived damaged, from a client wanting to schedule a viewing, from the accountant following up on those tax documents. I ignore all of it. Nothing matters except understanding what's happening in that building. When Atticus finally emerges, he's with another man. Tall, blonde, expensive suit. They shake hands at the curb, a transaction clearly complete. Atticus looks satisfied. The other man looks cold, calculating. I take a dozen photos of both of them. As soon as Atticus's car pulls away, I get out and approach the building. The directory lists the suite number they came from. Ivanov International Consulting. I take more photos, then return to my car and call James. I need you to run a name, I say as soon as he answers. Ivanov International Consulting, Financial District, and I need to know why my husband just had a meeting there. I'll call you back, he says. The callback comes 30 minutes later. Mrs. Harlow, you need to be very careful. Konstantin Ivanov, the owner of that consulting firm, is not someone you want to mess with. He's connected to some very serious people. Russian organized crime, possibly human trafficking. The FBI has been trying to build a case against him for years, but he's well protected. Legitimate business as a front, all his real work happens off the books. Human trafficking. The words echo in my head like a death sentence. What kind of human trafficking? I ask, though I'm not sure I want to know the answer. All kinds, but one of his specialties is making people disappear. Not killing them, just relocating them. New identities, new lives, usually for people running from the law or from debts or from families. It's a service for people who want to erase their old lives completely. Oh God. Oh God. How much would something like that cost? I whisper. Depending on the complexity, anywhere from 200,000 to over $1 million. And Mrs. Harlow, if your husband used Ivanov's services, then your son isn't just missing. He's been deliberately erased. His memories, his identity, everything that made him who he was. Ivanov has connections to doctors who specialize in chemical memory suppression, psychological reconditioning. It's sophisticated and it's brutal. I think I'm going to be sick. I pull over to the side of the road and put my head between my knees, trying to breathe. Why? I manage to ask. Why would Atticus do this to his own son? There's a pause. Mrs. Harlow, in my experience, people don't go to these lengths unless there's something personal at stake. Money, revenge, secrets they can't afford to have exposed. Whatever your husband's reason, it was strong enough to justify destroying your son's entire life. I think about that second child who never existed. About Olivier and those 6 weeks 30 years ago. About the timing that never quite added up and the resemblance between Cassian and me that everyone always commented on. He knows, I say out loud. Atticus knows Cassian isn't his biological son. That's why he did this. Mrs. Harlow, I need to see him. I need to see Cassian. Can you get me into his apartment? That's breaking and entering. I don't care. I need to see where my son is living, what his life is like now. I need to see what they've done to him. James sighs heavily. Give me 24 hours. I'll see what I can do. That night, Atticus comes home late again. He seems relaxed, almost cheerful. He suggests we order dinner from our favorite Italian restaurant, opens a bottle of expensive wine. To anyone watching, we look like a normal couple having a quiet evening at home. "I've been thinking," he says over pasta. "Maybe we should take a trip, get away for a while. The grief has been so heavy, and I think a change of scenery might help us both." "A trip where?" I ask, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. "I don't know. Europe, maybe. You haven't been back to Paris in years. Or we could go somewhere completely new. Thailand, New Zealand. Somewhere far away from memories. Somewhere far away from Cassian, he means. Somewhere I can't keep investigating." "I can't leave the galleries right now," I say carefully. "We have 3 major exhibitions opening next month. I need to be here." His jaw tightens slightly. "The galleries can survive without you for a few weeks. You have excellent staff." I said no, Atticus. I set down my fork and meet his eyes. "I'm not leaving New York." We stare at each other across the table, and I see it clearly now. The man I married doesn't exist anymore, if he ever did. This is a stranger wearing my husband's face, a stranger who destroyed our son to protect his pride and his legacy. "Suit yourself," he says finally, his tone light but his eyes cold. "But don't say I didn't offer." After dinner, he retreats to his study. I go to our bedroom and sit on the edge of the bed, my whole body trembling. I need to get out of this apartment. I need to be somewhere he can't watch me, can't control me. But I can't leave yet, not until I have everything I need to bring him down. My phone buzzes, a text from James. "Managed to get building supervisor for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Told him you're Ethan's aunt, concerned about his well-being. He's letting you in for 15 minutes. Don't touch anything you don't have to. Tomorrow at 2. Tomorrow I'll walk into the apartment where my son is living a life that isn't his, and I'll see exactly what Atticus and Konstantin Ivanov have done to him." I lie down in bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Atticus move around in his study. Every sound he makes sets my nerves on edge. I'm sharing a home with a man who had our son's mind erased. A man who is capable of looking me in the eye and lying about the most fundamental thing in our lives. And tomorrow, I'll begin gathering the evidence to destroy him. The building superintendent is a heavy-set man in his 60s named Frank, who looks at me with genuine sympathy. "Your nephew is a quiet guy," he says as he unlocks apartment 3B. "Never any trouble. Keeps to himself. Pays rent on time. I hope he's okay." "That's what I'm trying to find out," I say, my voice steady despite the fact that my heart is beating so hard I can feel it in my throat. "His mother asked me to check on him. He hasn't been returning calls." Frank nods and pushes the door open. 15 minutes, like I said, and don't mess anything up. I could lose my job for this. "I understand. Thank you." He walks away, and I step into my son's prison. It's worse than I imagined. The apartment is tiny, maybe 300 square feet total. A narrow bed against one wall, a small kitchenette, a bathroom I can see from the doorway. There's a desk with a laptop, a single chair, a lamp. No decorations on the walls. No personal items that I can see. No books, no art. Nothing that suggests a human being with interests or passions or history lives here. It looks like a cell. I move quickly, my hands shaking as I pull on the latex gloves James gave me. The desk first. I open the laptop, but it's password protected. I take photos of everything instead. The few pieces of mail stacked neatly in a wire basket, all addressed to Ethan Clark. A prescription bottle on the nightstand catches my eye. Lorazepam, prescribed by Dr. Marcus Kensington. I don't recognize the name, but I photograph the label anyway. The closet holds exactly 5 identical white button-down shirts, 3 pairs of gray pants, 1 pair of black shoes. This isn't how Cassian dressed. My son loved color, loved fashion, had a closet full of designer pieces he'd collected over the years. This uniform wardrobe is another erasure, another way they've stripped away who he was. I find a small notebook in the desk drawer. My hands are shaking so badly I almost drop it. The pages are filled with handwriting I recognize immediately as Cassian's, but the content makes my blood run cold. My name is Ethan Clark. I am 28 years old. I work at Meridian Consulting Group. I live alone. I have no family. My memories before 3 months ago are not real. They are symptoms of my condition. I must focus on the present. I must take my medication. I must follow the routine. The same phrases repeated over and over, page after page. This is what they've done to him. They've convinced him that his entire life, his entire identity, is a delusion. That the medications keeping him docile and confused are helping him, not destroying him. I take photos of every page, tears streaming down my face that I can't stop. Then I see it, tucked in the very back of the notebook. A drawing. It's rough, clearly done quickly, maybe even unconsciously, but I recognize it immediately. It's the view from our apartment. The skyline of Manhattan as seen from our living room windows, drawn in the distinctive style Cassian developed as an architecture student. Precise lines, perfect proportions, the kind of spatial awareness you can't fake. He remembers. Some part of him, buried under the drugs and the conditioning and the lies, still remembers. I'm clutching the notebook to my chest, sobbing quietly when I hear a sound behind me. I spin around and nearly scream. Atticus is standing in the doorway. "Hello, Cordelia," he says calmly, as if finding his wife in a stranger's apartment is the most natural thing in the world. "I thought I might find you here." My mind races. How did he know? Has he been following me? Has James been compromised? "How long have you known?" he asks, stepping into the apartment and closing the door behind him. "About Cassian being alive, I mean." "When did you figure it out?" I straighten up, forcing myself to stop crying, to meet his eyes. If this is the moment, then I'm going to face it with dignity. "I saw him at the Langham 4 days ago. He didn't recognize me, but I knew it was him immediately." Atticus nods slowly, as if this confirms something he already suspected. "The birthmark. Of course. I told Constantine we should have it removed, but he said it would leave scarring that might trigger questions. I suppose he was right to worry." "Why?" The word comes out as barely a whisper. "Why would you do this to your own son?" "My son?" He laughs, a harsh, bitter sound. "That's rich, Cordelia, because we both know Cassian was never my son. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't notice when he needed a blood transfusion 3 years ago and his type didn't match either of ours? That I wouldn't run the tests and discover the truth?" "So, you destroyed him," I say, my voice stronger now, fueled by rage. "You destroyed an innocent person because your pride couldn't handle the fact that I had an affair 30 years ago during a separation that you initiated. I raised him for 28 years. Atticus's voice rises, the calm facade cracking. 28 years of pretending, of watching everyone comment on how much he looked like you, of knowing that every achievement of his was a testament to another man's genes, not mine. The Wainwright name, the Wainwright legacy, all carried forward by some French nobody's bastard. He was a human being. He was a person with dreams and hopes and people who loved him." "He was a lie," Atticus says coldly. "And when he started digging into his own DNA, when he confronted me 3 months ago and threatened to tell the world that he wasn't a real Wainwright, I realized the lie needed to end. So I ended it. Constantine gave him a gift, really. A clean slate. No addiction, no identity crisis, no painful truths to face. Just a simple life with simple routines." I stare at this man I thought I knew, this monster wearing my husband's face, and I realize that I've been recording everything. My phone is in my pocket, set to record audio before I entered the apartment. Every word of his confession is being captured. "You'll never prove any of this," Atticus continues, as if reading my thoughts. "Constantine is untouchable. The body I identified was a John Doe from the morgue, someone who'd never be missed. All the paperwork is legitimate, all the trails lead nowhere. You can tell whoever you want about Ethan Clark, but without proof that he's actually Cassian, it's just the ravings of a grief-stricken widow. You're wrong, I say quietly. I have proof. I have financial records showing your payments to Ivanov. I have photos of you meeting with him. I have DNA evidence proving Ethan Clark is Cassian. And now I have your confession. His face goes very still. You've been recording this. Every word. For a long moment, neither of us moves. Then Atticus takes a step toward me, and I see something in his eyes that makes my blood freeze. This is a man who has already destroyed one life to protect his secrets. He won't hesitate to destroy another. Give me the phone, Cordelia, he says softly. Give it to me, and we can work this out. I'll have Constantine reverse the treatment. Cassian can come back. We can be a family again. But you need to give me that phone. No, I say, backing toward the window. I'm leaving now. And if you try to stop me, if anything happens to me, copies of everything I have will go directly to the FBI. You're bluffing. Try me. We stand frozen in this tableau, and I see him calculating, weighing options. Then he does something that terrifies me more than anything else. He smiles. You always were stubborn, he says. It's one of the things I loved about you once upon a time. Fine. Keep your evidence. But Cordelia, you should know something. My father knows everything. He approved everything, and the Wainwright family has connections you can't imagine. Judges, politicians, law enforcement. If you try to use that recording, you'll find that doors close very quickly. Evidence disappears. Witnesses become unreliable. We'll see, I say, and I push past him out the door. I don't run until I'm outside the building. Then I run like my life depends on it, because maybe it does. I don't go home. I go straight to Nadia's apartment in the village, and I don't stop shaking until I'm inside with the door locked and bolted behind me. She takes one look at my face and pulls me into her arms. He knows, I gasp out. Atticus knows everything. He was there, at the apartment. He confessed everything. Please tell me you got it on tape. I pull out my phone with trembling hands and play the recording. We listen to Atticus's voice admitting to everything, his cold justification for destroying our son's life, his threats about the Wainwright family's connections. When it's over, Nadia's face has gone pale. This is enough, she says. This is more than enough. We need to go to the police right now. He said they have connections. That evidence disappears. What if he's right? What if I hand this over and it just vanishes? Then we don't go to just anyone. I know someone. FBI agent, completely clean, no local connections. She's been trying to build a case against Konstantin Ivanov for years. This might be exactly what she needs. 2 hours later, we're sitting in a coffee shop in Brooklyn across from Special Agent Rebecca Torres, a woman in her early 40s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggests she's seen every kind of terrible thing humans can do to each other. I've played her the recording 3 times now, and she's taking detailed notes. Mrs. Harlow, this is extraordinary, she says finally. We've been investigating Ivanov for human trafficking for 4 years, but he's been impossible to pin down. If your son is one of his victims, if we can prove that connection, we might finally have enough for a warrant. How do we prove it? I ask. Atticus said all the documentation is legitimate. Legitimate on the surface, maybe, but everything leaves traces, money trails, communications, medical records. We just need to know where to look. She leans forward, her expression intense. But I need to be honest with you. This is going to get dangerous. If Ivanov suspects we're building a case, he'll move quickly to eliminate evidence. That might include witnesses, you, your son, anyone connected to this. I don't care about the danger. I care about saving Cassian. Then we move fast. I'll get a warrant for Ivanov's offices, for his financial records. We'll bring in the doctor who prescribed those medications to your son, and we'll need to get Cassian into protective custody as soon as possible. What about Atticus? I ask. What about his father? If they're involved in human trafficking conspiracy, they'll be arrested too. But Mrs. Harlow, these are powerful people. They'll have expensive lawyers. They'll fight this every step of the way. You need to be prepared for this to get ugly. It's already ugly, I say. It can't get worse than what they've already done. Agent Torres gives me a look that suggests I'm wrong about that, but she doesn't argue. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to wear a wire and go home. Act normal. If your husband tries to threaten you or make you another offer, we'll have more evidence. If he tries to hurt you, we'll have agents positioned nearby ready to intervene. The thought of going back to that apartment, of sleeping in the same bed as the man who destroyed my son, makes me want to vomit. But I nod. What about Cassian? Can someone watch him? Make sure he's safe? We'll have agents on him 24/7 starting now. If anyone tries to move him or hurt him, we'll know immediately. It takes another hour to get me fitted with the wire and brief me on what to do. Don't be confrontational. Let Atticus talk. If he makes threats, stay calm and keep him talking. If anything feels wrong, say the code phrase, "I need some air," and agents will move in. By the time I return to our apartment, it's nearly 9 at night. Atticus is in the living room with a glass of scotch, and standing next to him is his father, Cornelius Wainwright, the patriarch of the family, 86 years old and still sharp as a scalpel. I haven't seen him since the funeral. "Cordelia," Cornelius says, his voice carrying that aristocratic disdain he's always directed at me. "Atticus tells me you've been having some difficulties accepting Cassian's death, that you've been seeing things, imagining things." Is that what he told you? I set down my purse carefully, acutely aware of the wire taped to my body. That I'm crazy? Grief can do strange things to the mind, Cornelius continues, as if I haven't spoken. Especially to women of a certain age. Perhaps you need professional help. A stay at a private facility, somewhere you can rest and process your loss properly. I look at Atticus, understanding immediately what's happening. They're trying to have me committed, declared mentally incompetent. It's elegant, really. Discredit me completely before I can use any evidence against them. I'm not crazy, I say calmly, and I'm not going anywhere. "Cordelia," Atticus says, and his tone is almost gentle. "We're worried about you. You've been acting erratically, following me around the city, breaking into strangers' apartments. You need help. The only help I need is the truth about what you did to Cassian, about Konstantin Ivanov, about all of it." Cornelius's eyes narrow. "I don't know what delusions you've constructed, but my grandson is dead. We buried him. Whatever else you think you know is simply your mind trying to make sense of an unbearable loss." "I have proof," I say. "Recordings, financial records, everything." The room goes very quiet. Atticus and Cornelius exchange a look, and I see something pass between them, a decision being made. "Where is this supposed proof?" Cornelius asks. "Somewhere safe, somewhere you can't touch it." "Cordelia," Atticus says, and now his voice has an edge to it. "Give us the recordings. Give us everything you think you have. We can make this all go away. We can help you. But you need to cooperate." "Or what? You'll do to me what you did to Cassian? Erase my mind? Give me a new identity?" "If necessary," Cornelius says calmly, and the casual way he says it makes my blood run cold. You're not the first inconvenient woman in the Wainwright family history. Atticus's great-aunt Margaret became similarly difficult back in the 70s, started making wild accusations, threatening to expose family secrets. She spent the last 30 years of her life in a very comfortable private psychiatric facility in Vermont. No visitors, of course, for her own protection. "You're monsters," I whisper. "We're pragmatists," Cornelius corrects. "We protect the family name and legacy at all costs. Cassian was never a true Wainwright. He was a stain on our lineage that needed to be removed. Now you're threatening to make that stain public. We can't allow that." "That's enough," Atticus says suddenly. "Father, she's recording this. Look at how she's standing, how she's angling toward us. She's wearing a wire. My heart stops. Cornelius's eyes lock onto mine, cold and calculating. How clever, he says softly. Tell me, Cordelia, who are you working with? The police? FBI? I don't answer. I can't answer. My mind is racing, trying to remember the code phrase, trying to figure out if I should run or stand my ground. Atticus moves faster than I expect for a man his age. He crosses the room in 3 strides and grabs my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. Where is it? Where's the wire? Let go of me, I say, trying to pull away. You're hurting me. You should have accepted the help we offered, Cornelius says, moving toward the apartment door and locking it. Now this becomes significantly more complicated. Atticus tears open my blouse, and I see the moment he spots the wire taped to my ribs. His face goes white with rage. You bitch. You actually went to the police. The FBI, I say, because what do I have to lose now? They're listening to everything. They know about Ivanov, about the money, about everything. You're finished. No, Cornelius says calmly. We're not. Because without that recording device, you have nothing. And in about 30 seconds, you're not going to have that device anymore. Atticus reaches for the wire, and I do the only thing I can think of. I scream the code phrase at the top of my lungs. I need some air! I need some air! For a moment, nothing happens. Then the apartment door crashes open, agents flooding in with weapons drawn. Atticus releases me and steps back, his hands raised. Cornelius doesn't move, just stands there with an expression of cold fury. Dr. Atticus Wainwright, Cornelius Wainwright, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit human trafficking, kidnapping, and attempted assault, Agent Torres announces as she enters. You have the right to remain silent. You can't prove anything, Cornelius says calmly as they handcuff him. We have the best lawyers in New York. This will never see the inside of a courtroom. We have a full confession on tape, Torres says. From both of you. And we have your victim. We found Cassian Harlow alive, which means this isn't just conspiracy. It's completed human trafficking. That's 25 to life, minimum. I see Atticus's face crumble, the reality of what he's done finally hitting him. Cordelia, please. I did this for us, for our family. You did this for yourself, I say, my voice shaking. And Cassian was never our family. He was my son, mine, and you tried to destroy him because your ego couldn't handle the truth. They take them away, and I collapse onto the couch, my whole body shaking. Nadia appears from somewhere and wraps her arms around me, and I finally let myself break down completely. It's over, she whispers. It's over. You did it. But it's not over. Not yet, because Cassian is still out there somewhere, still believing he's someone named Ethan Clark, still trapped in a prison of false memories and chemical conditioning. Agent Torres sits down across from me once I've calmed down enough to speak. Mrs. Harlow, we have a team with your son right now. They're taking him to a secure medical facility where specialists will begin the process of reversing the conditioning. How long will that take? I don't know. The doctors we've consulted say it could be weeks or months. Some memories might come back quickly, others might never fully return. The drugs Ivanov's people used are sophisticated. They don't just suppress memories, they create new neural pathways, new beliefs. Undoing that kind of damage is complex. But he'll remember me eventually? He'll know who he is? Torres looks at me with something like pity. I hope so, Mrs. Harlow. I really do. But you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that the Cassian you knew might be changed forever. Trauma like this leaves scars. I don't care, I say fiercely. Changed or not, scarred or not, he's my son, and I will be there for him every single day until he remembers that, however long it takes. Then you should come with us now. He's asking for you. My heart stops. He's asking for me? He remembers? No, Torres says gently, but the agents showed him your photo and explained that you're his mother. He doesn't remember you, but he wants to meet you. He says there's something familiar about your face that he can't quite place. I'm already standing, already reaching for my coat. Take me to him, right now. The drive to the facility feels endless. I sit in the back of the FBI vehicle with Nadia holding my hand, staring out the window at the city lights and thinking about everything that's happened. 4 days ago, I was a woman drowning in grief, barely able to function. Now I'm a woman who's brought down her own husband, exposed a human trafficking ring, and is about to face her son, who doesn't know her. When we arrive at the facility, a doctor meets us in the lobby. She's young, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. Mrs. Harlow, I'm Dr. Sarah Winters. I specialize in treating victims of psychological trauma and memory manipulation. Your son is stable, physically healthy, but very confused. The medication he's been on has started to wear off, and he's experiencing fragments of memory that contradict everything he's been told about his identity. He's frightened and disoriented. Can I see him? Yes, but I need to prepare you. He may not recognize you. He may say things that are hurtful because he genuinely doesn't remember. Try not to take it personally. His brain is essentially rebooting, trying to reconcile two completely different sets of memories. She leads me down a hallway to a private room. Through the window in the door, I can see him. Cassian, my son. He's sitting on the edge of a bed, his head in his hands, looking lost and broken. Dr. Winters opens the door, and I step inside. Cassian looks up, and for a moment, our eyes meet. There's confusion there, fear, but also something else. Something that might be recognition buried deep. Hi, I say softly, staying near the door, not wanting to overwhelm him. I'm Cordelia. They tell me I'm your mother, but I understand you don't remember me. That's okay. We have time. He stares at me for a long moment. I've been dreaming about you, he says finally, his voice rough. For weeks now, but they told me the dreams weren't real, that my memories weren't real, that I was sick and needed to focus on being Ethan. You're not sick, I say, tears streaming down my face. Your name is Cassian Harlow. You're 28 years old, you're an architect, and you're my son, my only child, the most important person in my entire world. He closes his eyes, and I can see him struggling. I don't remember. I want to remember, but I can't. It's like there's a wall in my head, and everything important is on the other side of it. Then we'll tear down that wall, I say, taking a step closer. Together, however long it takes. I'm not going anywhere. I will be here every single day until you remember. And even if you never remember completely, even if some things are lost forever, I will still be here. Because you're my son. Nothing can change that. He looks at me again, and this time there are tears in his eyes too. I'm scared, he whispers. I know, baby, I know. But you're safe now. I promise you're safe. I sit down next to him on the bed, not touching him, just being close. And slowly, hesitantly, he reaches out and takes my hand. His grip is uncertain, like he's not sure if this is okay, if this is allowed. Tell me about him, he says quietly. About Cassian. Tell me who I'm supposed to be. So I do. I tell him everything. About the day he was born, about his first steps and first words. About how he used to hide behind my legs when he was shy as a little boy. About his passion for architecture, his talent for drawing, his infectious laugh that could light up a room. About the motorcycle accident and the long recovery. About his struggles and his triumphs and everything that made him uniquely, wonderfully him. And as I talk, I see something shift in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or hope, or just the beginning of a long journey home. I want to remember, he says when I finally stop talking. I want to be him again, to be Cassian. You already are, I tell him. You always have been. They just tried to make you forget. But you're still in there, and we're going to find you. He squeezes my hand tighter, and for the first time in months, I feel something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. 6 months later, I'm standing in my Chelsea gallery preparing for an opening when my phone rings. The name on the screen makes my heart skip a beat, the way it does every single time, even now. Mom? The word still sounds tentative sometimes, like he's testing it out, making sure it fits. But it's there. He remembers. Hi, sweetheart. Are you still coming tonight? Yeah, I'm leaving now. Mom, I remembered something else today. In therapy. The trip we took to Paris when I was 15. The Musée d'Orsay. You spent 3 hours explaining Impressionism to me, and I pretended to be bored, but I was actually fascinated. I close my eyes, tears threatening. These calls come almost daily now. Little fragments of memory returning, piece by piece, like a puzzle slowly reassembling itself. You asked me why anyone would want to paint something that looked blurry, I say, smiling through the tears. And I told you they were capturing feeling, not just form. I can see it now. I can see us there. It's not just a story you told me anymore. It's real. It's mine. It was always yours, baby. We're just helping you find your way back to it. After we hang up, I stand there for a moment, letting the gratitude wash over me. The road to this moment has been brutal. The first month was the hardest, watching Cassian struggle with 2 competing sets of memories, not knowing which ones were real. There were days he looked at me like a stranger. Days he called me Cordelia instead of Mom. Days he seemed to slip back into being Ethan Clark, that hollow shell of a person Konstantin Ivanov had created. But slowly, painfully, with the help of Dr. Winters and a team of specialists, the walls started coming down. The medications cleared his system. The false memories began to fade, recognized for what they were. And underneath it all, Cassian was still there. Changed, yes, scarred, absolutely, but still fundamentally himself. The trial was a media circus, exactly as Cornelius had predicted. The Wainwright family lawyers were vicious, attacking my credibility, painting me as an unstable woman who'd had an affair and was now seeking revenge. They tried to discredit the recordings, questioned the FBI's methods, suggested that Cassian's memory loss was due to natural causes unrelated to their clients. But Agent Torres and her team had done their homework. They found 17 other victims of Konstantin Ivanov's operation, people who'd been relocated with new identities, their memories suppressed or erased. They traced the money trails, found the doctors who'd provided the drugs, built a case so airtight that even the best lawyers couldn't dismantle it. Atticus took a plea deal in the end. 20 years for conspiracy to commit human trafficking and kidnapping. His medical license was revoked, his reputation destroyed. The man who'd spent his entire life building a legacy as a respected surgeon will spend the next 2 decades in a federal prison. Cornelius went to trial and lost. At 86, a 25-year sentence is essentially a life sentence. I testified against him, looked him in the eye as I described his cold admission about what they'd done to Aunt Margaret, about how casually he'd suggested doing the same to me. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Konstantin Ivanov is still awaiting trial, but the evidence against him is overwhelming. His empire has crumbled, his assets frozen, his carefully constructed legitimate facade stripped away. He'll never see freedom again. I thought I'd feel satisfaction watching them all fall, some kind of triumphant vindication. But mostly, I just feel tired and sad. Sad for all the years Atticus and I wasted in a marriage built on lies. Sad for Cassian, for the 3 months of his life that were stolen from him. Sad for all of Ivanov's victims who will never fully recover from what was done to them. The gallery door opens, pulling me from my thoughts. It's Cassian, and behind him is a man I haven't seen in person in 30 years. Olivier Marchand has aged well. His hair is gray now, and there are lines around his eyes that weren't there when we were young, but he still has that same gentle smile that made me fall in love with him all those years ago. Cordelia, he says, and his French accent wraps around my name like a warm embrace. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming, I say, and then I can't help it. I hug him, this man who gave me the greatest gift of my life, even though he never knew it. When I told Olivier the truth 6 months ago, calling him in France to explain everything that had happened, there was a long silence on the line. Then he'd said, "I have a son?" in a voice so full of wonder and pain that it broke my heart. He flew to New York the next day and has been here ever since, getting to know Cassian, building a relationship with this young man who's biologically his but who he missed raising. It could have been awkward, it could have been terrible, but somehow it works. Cassian has 2 parents now who actually love him, who would move heaven and earth for him. And Olivier has the son he never knew he wanted, approaching fatherhood with a gentleness and patience that Atticus never possessed. "How is he today?" Olivier asks quietly, watching Cassian examine one of the paintings on the wall. "Good." He remembered Paris, the museum. Olivier's eyes light up. "That's wonderful. Each memory is a gift." We join Cassian, and I watch as father and son discuss the artwork, their heads bent together, and something settles in my chest. This isn't the family I thought I'd have. It's not the life I planned. But it's real, built on truth instead of lies, and that makes it more valuable than anything I had before. Nadia arrives with her husband, and other friends trickle in. People who stood by me through the trial, through the media storm, through everything. My gallery staff, who kept the business running when I could barely function. Artists I've worked with for years. This community I've built over decades of hard work. The exhibition we're opening tonight is Cassian's first since the kidnapping. 20 drawings, architectural sketches mixed with more abstract pieces, all of them exploring themes of memory and identity and home. The centerpiece is a large drawing of our apartment building, the view from the street, every window rendered in perfect detail. In one window on the 15th floor, barely visible unless you look closely, there's a small figure, a woman standing at the glass looking out. "That's you," Cassian says, appearing at my elbow. "From all those mornings when I was growing up, I'd leave for school and look back, and you'd always be at the window, watching until I was out of sight. I didn't remember it consciously until I started drawing, but my hands remembered. They drew you there automatically. I can't speak. I just pull him into a hug, this son who was lost and is now found. This boy who's become a man through unimaginable trauma and somehow came through it, still capable of love, still capable of creating beauty. I'm sorry, I whisper into his shoulder. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you, that I didn't see what Atticus was planning. Mom, stop. He pulls back to look at me. You saved me. You refused to accept that I was gone. You tore apart your entire life to find the truth. You're the reason I'm standing here instead of living in that apartment in Queens, thinking I'm someone named Ethan Clark. You have nothing to apologize for. But the memories you lost are coming back. Not all of them, maybe not ever all of them, but enough. And the ones that don't come back, we'll make new ones, better ones, honest ones. He's right. I know he's right. But the mother in me still wants to fix everything, to erase every moment of pain he experienced. Come on, he says, taking my hand. People are waiting for you to give your speech. I look around the gallery at all these faces I love, at the art on the walls, at the life I've rebuilt from the ashes of everything I thought I knew. At my son, alive and healing. At Olivier, who's looking at Cassian with such open adoration that it makes my heart ache. At Nadia, my steadfast friend who never doubted me for a moment. This is my family now. Not the false construct I maintained for decades, not the image we presented to the world. This messy, complicated, honest family built on truth and forgiveness and second chances. I step forward to address the crowd, and Cassian stays beside me, his hand in mine. As I begin to speak about art and memory and the resilience of the human spirit, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. My son came back from the dead. My marriage to a monster is over. The truth, terrible as it was, is finally known. And somehow, impossibly, we're all still standing. This exhibition, I tell the assembled crowd, is about reclaiming what was stolen, about rebuilding identity when someone tries to erase it, about the power of memory and love to survive even the most deliberate attempts at destruction. These pieces are my son's journey back to himself, and I'm honored to share them with all of you. The applause fills the gallery, and Cassian squeezes my hand. I look at him and see not just the boy he was, or the shell of a person they tried to make him, but the man he's becoming, stronger for having been broken, wiser for having been lost, more compassionate for understanding how fragile identity really is. We lost so much. Atticus's betrayal cost us years of peace, months of Cassian's life. The innocence of believing family means safety. But we survived, we fought back, and we won. That night, after the opening ends and the guests have gone home, I return to my apartment alone. It's been redecorated, every trace of Atticus removed, but it's still home. I pour myself a glass of wine and stand at the window, looking out at the New York skyline, at this city that's seen me through everything. My phone buzzes with a text from Cassian. "Thank you for tonight. Thank you for everything. I love you, Mom." I smile through tears and type back, "I love you too, baby. Always have, always will. Sleep well." And for the first time in months, I believe that we both actually will. The nightmare is over. The healing continues. And tomorrow we start building the life we should have had all along. A life built on truth. A life worth living. A life where my son knows exactly who he is and who loves him and where he belongs. Home.